I allow the person to explain to me what's really going on. And then throughout the course of their explanation, and then we dialogue about it.
Hello and welcome back to the Herbal Skillshare Marathon. In this session, we are going to be hearing from Zaire Saab, who is a clinical herbalist, and she is going to be sharing her skills of clinical intake, how she gets to know the clients who come and seek her help as an herbalist, and how she starts to understand what it is they are actually asking for and what it is that they need, how she can help them with her skills as an herbalist. This skill of listening and understanding what people want and how you can help them is incredibly important for any clinical herbalist. And so Zaire, I will let you take it from here.
Well, again, my name is Zaire Saab. I'm the founder of Mystic Mama, LLC. I am traditionally a registered nurse. I started out in the medical field about 20 years ago, trying to decide whether or not I wanted to be a medical doctor. And so if you ask my mom, she said I took the long way around trying to figure it out, because I was a paramedic at first, then an IV therapist, and then I'm a registered nurse, and now I'm a herbalist, and now I'm actually in school to get my doctorate of osteopathy as we speak. Okay, so the one thing that you have to always realize about people, we are onions, okay? I say that in respect to that we have many layers, you know? So you may come to me saying that you're having trouble sleeping, you're up all night, you're tossing and turning, and you may attribute it to the fact that you have a very stressful job. That may be true, you know, that may be true. However, it's never that simple. It's never that simple. There's always something else. And so I'm going to allow you to have the floor. It's like, hey, look, you know, tell me what you think is going on. Because a lot of times, you know, we'll self-diagnose with the help of WebMD, which is like the worst thing ever. But, you know, if you advocate for your own health, you're going to research your symptoms. So you're going to already come to me with an idea of what you think it could be. And then as we talk further, we're going to find out what the real situation is. So like I said, you may come to me and you're like, hey, I'm having trouble sleeping, but I think it's associated to this job that I have that's driving me insane. That's super stressful and whatnot. I'm like, okay, great. Well, tell me more about your sleep patterns. Is it that you have trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? You don't feel like you're getting a deep enough sleep? Because all that means something different. Okay. So let's say it's a problem getting to sleep, right? I'm like, okay, well, tell me about your day. How does your day run? Oh, well, I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I have 3 cups of coffee. Then I go to work. I'm in this high stressful, high intense, high, you know, whatever kind of job. No, I don't eat during the day. I get off work at, 5, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Then I go work out for 2 hours. I have maybe 1 drink, bottle of water. And then I actually have my final meal around 7 or 8 o'clock at night. So all that, even within all of that, you've already told me that you are super doped up on caffeine. You don't have good food intake, and you don't have good hydration. Those 3 things alone is going to mess up your sleep pattern. Okay. When you have that much caffeine in your body, your adrenal glands, is what gives you your energy, your pep, so to speak, right? You can burn out your energy reserves by drinking that much coffee in the morning. Okay. And that's before we haven't got to your job yet. We just got up, we just woke up, and we're already stressed out. We've already stressed our body out, and there's 3 chemicals that our body produces in stress situations, which is your epinephrine, norepinephrine, your norepi, and your dopamine enzymes and stuff. That's our fight or flight mode. So if you're always on fight or flight, how else are you're taxing your body? You're overstressing your body. When you overstress your body, that affects your liver, that affects your stomach and your digestion, that affects your kidney, that affects your heart, that affects your lung. Like, it's this cascade of different things. And so then we started talking like, okay, look, well, first of all, do you need to, like, why is this job so stressful? Is it stressful because the actual job is stressful, or is it stressful because you feel like you're stagnant in your job? You know, because sometimes a person's mindset, just looking at things from a different angle, will open up so many different things, right? So we'll discuss that. And, you know, we're going to diet. Like, look, you know, your liver processes the day between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. Like, that's when it goes to work, doing its filtering thing, you know, doing what it does. So if you're up eating around 11:30, midnight, your liver can't do what it's supposed to do. And the thing about your liver is that it's one of the things to help you sleep. It helps get you that deep sleep that you need so that your body can reset and, you know, get up in the morning with your pep in your step, you know, pep in your step. Mm-hmm. So it literally is just one of those kind of things. So to answer your question, I allow the person to explain to me what's really going on. And then throughout the course of their explanation, I'm gonna start pulling out different things that I know are side effects of or can contribute to. And then we dialogue about it. Just yesterday, as a matter of fact, I had a young lady, I was doing a womb consult with her, and she was talking about how she's 27, and she had only been to the gynecologist once in her lifetime. And when she went that one time, she found out that she had an STD. And it is one of the STDs that can be resolved by itself. You don't really need medication for it. But during the course of our conversation, you know, I found out a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm like, well, you do realize that, you know, you're eating a lot of foods that have synthetic hormones in it. You're eating a lot of foods that have sugars, you know, like that high corn fructose syrup and sucrose and all this other stuff. You're eating stuff that makes your body hold on to disease. Let it go, and a lot of this will resolve. And literally, you could hear and see the lights just like, oh my God, that's right. You know, because then she started talking about how a couple of years ago she was in between jobs and couldn't afford fast food. You know, couldn't afford like going out to dinner and everything. And she stopped eating a lot of hormone foods and a lot of fake foods. And she's like, yeah, my menses, you know, I didn't have cramps and I didn't have headaches and all this. I felt better. I'm like, see, there's a correlation there. And a lot of times people don't, like, they have all this information floating around in their head, but they don't know how to connect it together, you know? Yeah. And then once it connects, it's like, oh, that's what that was.
Like
connected dots
that they have. And
and that's the best part about being a clinical herbalist. Is like, duh, yeah, of course I can't eat McDonald's every day. Of course that's of course that's why my skin looks the way it looks. So that's how I do it. Some of the questions that I ask are very medical. When was the last time you had this procedure done? What did they do with the procedure? Did you have a response for the procedure? I kind of float back and forth between being a regular medical person and a herbalist. And then it's like, because I have both of those running around in my head, like my intakes end up being very, very, very intense. Very intense. And I make them think about stuff like with the young lady, we had a 30-minute conversation about what her poop looked like. I'm like, but you know, you should look at the stuff that's coming out of your body. Yeah, huge indicator. And then I'm like, well, you know, look at your tongue for me. And she's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, look at your tongue. Your tongue is another way to assess the status of certain body organs. Now she's talking and talking and talking. I'm like, let me guess. There's a white coating on your tongue that won't go away. And she's like, oh my God, how did you know? I'm like, let me see. So she showed me her tongue, and yeah, true enough, she has that nice white coating, which is indicative of candida, which is yeast. You know, when people have a yeast overgrowth in their body, that makes them susceptible to holding on to certain pathogens, because those pathogens need sugar and need all this fat to live, and that's what you crave. And it's like this unending rat wheel. A lot of talking and then a lot of extrapolating. Well, what about this? What about that? and especially because we're in the technology age, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it would be one thing if this was, you know, the 30s or the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that literally we can Google everything in the world right now, you know, and we have access to research, you know, back in the day, I would have had to go to the library and sit in the library for hours and hours and hours to find, you know, peer review articles or documents about research.
Mm-hmm.
Now, PubMed.com. And
Yeah.
I have access to studies that were done in China, you know, 30 years ago. You know, so
Yeah.
people have an idea of what's going on with them. They just don't know how to put it together. And the thing about with the way I talk to people and the way that I interview people, because I never call it an intake. I always call it an interview or a dialogue. You know, they've already WebMD'd themselves to death. That's first. The second thing is, if you allow a person to assess their own situation, you empower them, you know, to take ownership of what they did to themselves or didn't do. And it empowers them to make a choice. Like, okay, am I going to sit here and have a poor quality of life, or am I going to do something about it? You know, take this bull by the horns and take over my life and get my life back. You know, when you empower people to be the steward of their own health, the compliance is better, one. And two, it's like you open up the whole world opens up. Like they start to, like, it literally trickles down to every aspect of their life. You know, they take ownership of their own personal health. Next thing you know, they're taking ownership of their relationship health. They're taking ownership of their financial health, their spiritual health, and everything. And you have now helped a person live the quality of life that they've always in their head dreamed about or thought they wanted but never knew how to achieve. Mm-hmm. In America, a lot of people think that being healthy costs a lot. Mm-hmm. You know, that's I can't eat right because it costs so much. And, you know, it does at first, but then when you look at it over like the course of a long time, it's really extremely cheap. It's costly on the front end, but much less, a lot less expensive the more you continue on. Whereas allopathic medicine is really, really cheap in the beginning, but then you end up going down this rabbit hole and you may have to have a surgery that's like an $80,000 surgery with 6 months of recovery time with another $500 a month of medication. Mm-hmm. What's it worth to you? You know, pay up front and live longer, or have like a really poor quality of life and end up owing so much money that your next generation has to pay it off for you. You know, and what's crazy is like I actually have to like explain it to people like that sometimes. Mm-hmm. You know, what is it worth to you? You know, if you're the only person in your family that's a provider, you know, like if you have like a husband, a wife, and children, and you're the only one bringing income in, can you really afford to be out of work for 4 or 5 months? Can your household sustain that if you were to go down?
Yeah.
The answer is usually no. It's okay, so if it's no, then why not work towards having a better quality of life so that you don't have those kind of things? So, you know, and again, you know, I'm not naive to think that, oh, you know, just because you take ashwagandha every day, nothing bad's ever going to happen. But, you know, you greatly take away some of those variables. You know, and then as a nurse, one of the things that we do all the time is that we translate all the information the doctor just told you. Mm-hmm. Like every day, you know, you may have had an hour-long conversation with the doctor, and it's like, okay, now what did he really say? Like, what? What does that mean? The wealth of information when you have a person and you're able to break it down to the cellular level as to, okay, this is why ginseng is going to work for you. This is how it puts together, you know, and that's what's gonna, you have to charge what you're worth. You know what I'm saying? So one of the things that actually, like, I want to say kicked off a lot is the fact that I actually did a lecture at a conference. I did a lecture last year at the American Herbalist Guild conference, and I videotaped it and then put it on the internet.
Right.
Oh my gosh. When I did that, it was like, okay, wait, no, I need to know more. What do you say? Wait, say that again. Getting out there and speaking the knowledge. That's kind of how you bring people into you. And then it's like you have one person and it works. And then they tell another person, and then back like not even 20 years ago, 10 years ago, telling one person is telling one person, telling one person. Now, with Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook, telling one person is telling 30 people. And then those 30 people tell one person, but that one person tells 50 people. So it's like, it's no longer one to one to one. It's like 1 to 30 to 100 to 200. And then like I have my clients that I work with. They tell other people, it's weird. It's like when you're pregnant, you always know somebody else that's pregnant. As humans, that's our thing. We reach out for the information we need. And it's always there. It's just a matter of finding it and when you find it. Once a person realizes they can heal themselves by making very small, okay, not always very small, but small modifications in certain things, it's like, okay, yes, I'm okay now. You know, I have the strength. I can do this. Know the plants. And I mean, literally know your plants. Understand what they look like in real life, like growing in real life, and then understand how they work. Like, what does it mean for an adaptogen? Okay, adaptogens, that's a classification of herb. And what it does, it literally does what it says. It adapts. So if you're out of balance somewhere, it's going to bring into balance what it needs to. Okay. Sometimes you'll be able to understand that, you'll be able to see the effects of it outwardly. Sometimes you won't realize the effects. Okay. But also understanding that not having a symptom is a symptom. That's the other part I think a lot of people don't understand, is the absence of a symptom can be just as much information as having a symptom. So definitely know the plants. You have to know the plants. That's like, know the classifications. What does it mean to have an alternative? What does it mean to have a cardiotonic? How does that work? And even if a person, okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is, even if a person is not in the medical field, anatomy and physiology, I think, is very, very key. Because if you don't understand how the body works, if you don't understand why you have to have sodium, potassium, and sugar to make your body function, I think it's a disservice to suggest a herbal regimen. Because even though it's not allopathic medicine, it still has an effect. You know, if you take chasteberry, which is a hormone modulator, right? If a woman takes that has a biophysical response on her body. If you don't understand how the body is in general, how are you ever going to be able to gauge whether or not it's working or not working? And how are you going to be able to explain that or articulate that to someone else? So know the herbs, know your know anatomy and physiology. And then the third thing, never stop studying.